All right, everybody, welcome to today's show. My name is Brett with Tribe Title. This is Talk the Talk with Tribe Title, and today's guest I'm really excited about. He's a man who needs no introduction. However, I'm going to introduce him because people listen on the radio and they wouldn't know who you are. So today's guest is Esteban Rubio with Keller Williams. And how long have you been an agent?
I've been an agent for 3 years now with Keller Williams. So August 19th is actually my 3-year mark.
Okay.
So this is my anniversary month.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you're a young guy, right?
Yep. 28.
Okay. Very cool. Did you go to college or you started this right out of high school?
So I went to LCC, which is a community college in Lansing. And then I ended up getting my bachelor's degree from Ferris in business. And then I ended up I was working a couple different jobs. At the time it was construction. So I did that for almost 3 years. It was okay, but I was just looking for something more long-term. And I stumbled upon an ad online, submitted my resume, got an email from, it would have been Melissa at the time.
Yeah.
And met with them and came right in. And I said, all right, I'm in.
Awesome. Did you work at like part-time or did you dive right in?
No. So I'm a big Tony Robbins fan, and he always talks about burning the boats.
Yeah.
If you want to survive on something, if you want to survive on the island, you can't have a boat at bay.
Right.
So I kind of took the same approach with it and just quit and went full time. And when I quit, there was a couple people saying, oh, it takes 5 years, it takes X years to build it. Oh, I know somebody who's been doing it. Like, that's not a smart idea. Or maybe you should do a part-time job. So there was a lot of that noise in the background.
Yeah.
And, I was wondering, I was like, well, I kind of just did it because I'd listened to Tony. So
yeah.
We'll see who's right.
Right. Rather listen to somebody that has success than all the haters.
Yep.
Very cool. That's one of the things I was going to ask you about. I know from speaking to you outside of work that you're really into like motivational speakers, very big into like mindset and things like that.
Yep.
Who's like your go-to motivational speakers?
David Goggins. So I'd say it used to be Eric Thomas. He's the one who kind of got me on board back in like 2012.
Yeah.
And just because he's from Detroit, kind of started diving into it and listening to what he was saying. But I just feel like David Goggins is, there's theorists and practitioners.
Right.
Like Eric Thomas, he'll talk about it and he's changed his life. And no disrespect, but David Goggins goes out there and he does like the craziest things that you can't even think of. Like he'll do it. So he'll talk about it and then he'll walk it out too. So that's who I really look up to.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Somebody that actually walks the walk.
Yep.
Yeah. I read that book, David Goggins, and it was mind blowing. Mm-hmm. And then when he started doing the ultra marathons and then found out he had like a hole in his heart and had been doing all that crazy
plantar
stuff.
Fasciitis, all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Navy SEAL, ultra marathoner. Yeah. It's insane the stuff that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Now, did you jump in and have success right off the bat, or was it a slow growth process for you?
I wouldn't say it was success from the get-go. And it took 6 months to get my first sale, which, to me, it wasn't enough. So the first 6 months weren't that successful, but I look at it as long-term. So first few months wasn't too successful. And then the first year I did about 13 transactions. So started to gain a little bit of momentum. And then my second year, I ended up doing 37 transactions.
That's incredible.
Yep. So,
and now you're in your third year currently?
So my second full year, I did 37. That was last year. And then this is my third full year.
Yeah.
And I'm on track to do somewhere around 37 again.
Okay. That's awesome. Which, in technically, as people would say, declining market.
Yep.
To even stay at that number is incredible.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. That's very cool. And now you started as a solo agent, correct?
Yep.
And then you were part of a team.
Yep.
That you were part owner of, correct?
Correct.
And now are you
back
solo
to solo
again?
Yep.
Okay.
So I went solo, and solo was really cool because it helped me learn A to Z.
Yeah.
And, when I talk to people that are asking about joining teams, the benefit of being solo is, yes, you have to do all of it, but you get to wear all hats. And that way you're kind of in the field for everything. You understand the systems, the processes. That way you can teach it one day. So really thankful for being solo. And then the time that I was a team owner, that was also really good because it just learned so much from what it's like to run a team. Just a great experience overall.
And now obviously, you're big on mindset, so I have no doubt that eventually you'll probably have another team. And you always hear about the people that are really successful. They've, you know, burnt more teams to the ground than they've actually had that were successful. So obviously you learn a lot about what you don't want to do from having a team. From your first go around, what were a couple of the things that you learned that you don't want to do moving forward?
I just want to take more time to build a foundation. I was talking to Dominic this morning, and I told him that I was going through an old journal of mine because I've been journaling since I was 18.
Yeah.
And I found a letter that said not every season is a harvest, right? Some seasons are for planting, some seeds are for watering, some seasons are for harvesting. Right now, I think I'm in the season for, just planting, getting that good soil and pulling the weeds out. What habits don't I want? What do I want? And then just planting the crops that I want to grow down the road.
Right.
And then the next season will be watering. And then down the road, I get to see that crop.
Yeah. No, it's a very cool way of looking at it. What are your plans moving forward? Do you see yourself eventually having another team or being part of a team?
Yeah, I think so for sure. Just even as a solo agent, I feel like I am on a team just by the people I work with, title companies, lenders, my coworkers, the brokerage that I'm with. So I feel like I'm still part of a bigger team, but I do see myself one day starting my own team again.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you think you would do it with a partner again, or do you think you would do it on your own?
It's a good question. I think I would probably go on my own.
Yeah.
And just run it that way. So I think partnership is awesome. And it's just like, you got a blank canvas and you're trying to get two minds to paint the same picture, their same vision. So I think just when it's one person, there's definitely benefits to having both because you can get places faster and further.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, the art of it. You get to paint what's in your mind, what you see in your future. So
yeah, no, I think that's a cool way of looking at it. It's like you said, like maybe if somebody came down the road and you're like, wow, we mesh perfectly, then, maybe it'd be a possibility. But like you said, I mean, you're obviously very big on mindset. You have all the tools in place to do it yourself. I find some people that do it with a partner is because they're kind of looking for a crutch, so to speak. Like, oh, I need help in these areas. But I mean, you seem like you're pretty well rounded in all of it. And
I appreciate that.
You know what you want, So if you know what you want, obviously it's hard when you have to kind of match that with somebody else's.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm open to opportunities. So I'm not saying yes, not saying no, just kind of, like I said, right now, just trying to look back at what the team did, what I did for the team. How could I have done it differently? Right. Hindsight's 2020. Right. But just take that as, my real estate education because we actually put a lot of time and a lot of money into it. So just learn from it, grow from it, and then be a better person because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. With the market, I guess they call it a shift, with the market shifting, I mean, what is your kind of outlook on that? Do you think that's a good time to grow, a bad time to start a team? Is it kind of one of those things where you'll just kind of like buckle down, make sure you have the individual success you need, and then maybe when things turn, start a team?
I think, that's a great question. And I believe in self-fulfilling prophecies. So like a lot of people, like the market shifting and we're hearing, oh, sales are going to go down or sales are going to slow down, right? So if you plant that seed into your head, next year your sales go down. You're like, see, I knew sales were going to go down, but that's because you allowed that plant to grow.
Right.
So I just going to keep plugging away, doing my best and working on myself personally and the business and just seeing what the byproduct is.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to do it. Yeah, because, I mean, perception is reality.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So, yeah, the people that say, like, oh, it's going to be a terrible year, and then they have a terrible year, it's like, well, no, you had a terrible year because you went into it thinking you were going to have a terrible year.
Yeah, and I think, so the thing that I'm really obsessed with is, like you talked about, the mind. I think the mind is just so powerful, and we don't fully understand it, but little things like just planting that little bit of doubt, it does impact us and it will show up. So just being really intentional with your mindset every day. Last year when I did Real Producers, something with that, I talked about the bulletproofing. So what helped me get from 13 to 37 was bulletproofing my mind. So the first year in real estate, it was, a lot of learning, showings here. There's no structure.
Right.
At least I didn't have any. So I had to work on myself before I could go into the office and work on my business, because if my home life and if my mind is all scrambled and I go in, show up at the office at 8:30 and I'm trying to call clients or prospect whatever,
Yeah.
that's already in the back of my mind. It's going to impact my business. So I'd wake up at 5, and from 5 to 8, no cell phone, go to the gym, go on a walk, journal, read, just like peaceful time that
Right.
was strictly for me. And then I could go in once like you're level headed, you thought about what you need to think about, and you're ready to take on the world, because things are going to come at you, deals are going to blow up, and you're already bulletproofed at that time. So you're not going to panic, right?
Yeah.
Because we have to be that rock for our people.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that, I mean, is that still kind of the time frame that you live by now? I know you have a baby at home now. Does that change kind of the way you
It changed
structure?
a little bit. So Gianna was born December 1st. So we had her, and then we bought a new house in May. So I've been working real estate and then taking care of Gianna,
Right.
and then working on the house because we're redoing everything.
Yeah.
Just using that construction background,
Right.
putting it to good use. So still I wake up about 5 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday because I go to play basketball.
Okay.
So gets me up in the morning, and then Tuesday, Thursday is a little bit slower. But the goal is to be waking up every day by 4:30.
Yeah. That's awesome. Do you find that having your daughter helps motivate you?
Yeah. Yeah. It motivates me to get home. Like I get home, and even leaving home is hard.
Yeah.
Because just I leave this morning, I'll come back, and I swear she's like an inch taller.
Right.
So it's just, I don't want to miss out any time with her, and especially these precious, Jordan Peterson, there's this like voiceover that's going, you get 4 years, as babies,
Yeah.
and then they're off to school. So that's kind of my focus right now, is I get 4 to 5 good years with her, and then
Right.
she's going to be in school, and I don't get to see her every day. So just, I love spending time with her, and she definitely drives me to just be a better person, be a better dad.
Right.
So.
Yeah. You have to think about the way you carry yourself and talk and act in the house. And
Yep.
yeah, especially
Everything.
in those formidable years, I mean, that's really important how they see you behave.
Yep.
Yeah, it's huge, but it's awesome too. I mean, it's very cool. It's like one of those things where they'll make you crazy when you're there, and then the second you leave, you miss them like crazy.
Yep.
And then you get back and they drive you crazy, and then but it's definitely
It's a beautiful relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, one you never get enough of.
Yep, I know. So I'm glad I had a daughter first, because I wanted strictly all boys.
Yeah.
And I remember we were at Tomato Bros when we found out, and I was a little bummed out it was a girl. But
Yeah.
now it's just like I'm thankful everything works out how it's supposed to, and
Right.
she's gonna teach me so much. And then I'll get my boy whenever the time's right.
I think daughters make you better husbands. Because
Yeah.
like my daughter, I realize there's so many similarities between my wife and my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I deal with her is different than I had dealt with my wife in the past.
Yep.
And now it's like I kind of look at my wife through the eyes of her, and I'm like, okay, is that how I want her to see me?
Yep.
And is this how I want her to grow up, and who I want her to be with? Because they say people,
They
women
marry
go,
their fathers pretty much. Yep.
So I'm like, well, who do I want her to marry? So I need to be this guy that I want her to marry.
Yeah.
So I think girls definitely teach you a lot about yourself.
Yeah. No, she's awesome.
That's cool. And girls play sports too. So
Oh yeah. I know. I got a little basketball for her. It's like that big. It's in the back of the car.
That's awesome.
But trying to get her to dribble. So she's not fully there yet.
Right.
She'll get there.
Walk before you run.
Yep. She can't even walk, but we're trying to get her to dribble a ball.
That's awesome. So in your house, you're doing a lot of projects. What are you guys working on?
So we bought a house. It was built in 1976, and original owner, she didn't change carpet, cabinet, nothing. So
Right.
it smelled old, looked old. But we walked in and had seen so many houses that I knew the layout was right,
Yeah.
and the rest of the stuff was just cosmetic. So we pulled the trigger on it and then just updated everything. And
Cool.
the goal is to just get it taken care of. That way we don't have to touch it for
Yeah.
another 10 to 15 years.
Right. That's awesome. And I think I've seen pictures of it. It's like a mid-century modern type home.
It's a
right?
little ranch, yeah.
Okay.
We're trying to modernize it, so
Yeah.
I'll get some pictures on Facebook and
Yeah.
show the world.
That's awesome. It's fun to do it like that too, though, because A, you're adding equity, and
Yep.
B, it's exactly what you wanted. Like we were talking about earlier, your vision, that's your vision, and it's exactly what you wanted, instead of buying a house that's already done, so you can't justify changing anything, but it's not exactly what you wanted.
Yep. So everything, like the paint color, everything is how we want, and The biggest thing where we benefit is not having to hire it out to a contractor, because then we save at least half the time, half the money.
Right.
Because right now people are just so booked up trying to get them to come do something. It's going to take a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a lot to do, but I'm ready to get it off my plate and then just focus on work and life.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, you still maintained 37 deals in a year while having a child, while moving, while renovating. I mean, sky's the limit when you get that off your plate.
I think so.
Very cool. Now, what is your goal for the following year? I know 37 is, I don't know what your goal was for this year. What's your goal for the next year?
So my goal for this year was, I had that team, so we had different goals. So right now it's just changing, like I said, just establishing a good foundation. My goal for next year would be to just keep the same level or higher of production, but just find ways to spend more time with family and just adding leverage to my life right now.
Yeah.
Leveraging out the things I don't want to do so that I can use that time to do things that I actually want to do.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Even if you could maintain 37 deals with less time into them, and obviously with inflation, it's kind of a built-in inflationary clause
sales
for your
price.
salary, because sales prices continue to go up. So yeah, you'd be doing really good.
Yeah, and I definitely see a team in the future for sure. Just like I said, if I do it, just want to make sure that it's done right.
Yeah. Well, I have no doubt in my mind that if you do have a team, it'll be done right. I mean, the cool thing is you have all the tools in place. You started yourself. You're huge on mindset.
Yep.
You're huge on self-discipline, which I think those are all tools that if you can build a team and get them to incorporate any of those aspects into their business, they'll be successful too, because part of being a team owner is you're responsible for those individuals to grow and obviously make a living and support their families. Is that something you feel responsible for?
Yeah, that's something I feel responsible for. And two, not saying that our first team wasn't done right. I think it's just, you do things and then you just make adjustments. So that's all it is. So even right now, just doing things and making adjustments, if I do build a team, when I do build a team, it's not going to be perfect, right? It's still going to have similar things, but it's just constantly making adjustments.
Right.
There's a saying that I really like. I watched the TV show Shooter. It's about a Marine, and he says Navy SEALs don't have plans or something. They just improvise. So they're always improvising. The plan is to always improvise.
Yeah, that's the number one plan. Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Yep, something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I know you had the team in the past. Do you think that impacted your numbers this year? Like, I know you're at 37, you were at 37 the year before. Do you think that time spent trying to build that team, do you think that your numbers would have been higher had you not put all the time and effort into that?
I'm sure it did a little bit, but I don't want to, just say it was because of that.
Right.
I definitely think if I was more focused and just had less on the plate, then yes, I could have done more. But we were in the building phases of it, so it's going to take some time. We take a little step back, so production does go down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think, just because there are no limits to the mind, right? I think you can still be building a team and have 60 deals, double, triple your business if you want to.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that always blows me away when I hear about these people that have like a team, 300 deals a year, and I'm thinking like, that's like you said, the mind has no limits, because that to them is very doable. Whereas to somebody looking at that, they're like, that's impossible. But they have the same, like they say, time is the great equalizer of all men. Everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. It's what are you doing in those 24 hours to get it done?
Yeah, and I think believing is a huge part of it too, because, like you almost have to see somebody else doing it for you to believe that it's possible. Right. Because if you're just imagining it in your head and you're like, it's just hope at that time. But then if you actually see somebody do it and you talk to somebody that's done it, it's more than just hope, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing it, it's living proof. So now you start to believe it and you tell yourself it's possible, then it becomes possible.
Yeah. So. And like you said, you need to see it. And it's very materialistic, but for me, that was always a big thing when I was younger. I remember I always wanted the get rich quick scheme,
Yep.
So I was always in sales, and When I was young and I got out of the military, I was in Arizona and I would go around for these different jobs.
Were you a recruiter?
No. But they were, that would have been a great one.
That would have been sweet. I could see you doing that.
But there was always like these sales jobs, and I would apply, and they would say like, oh, 200,000 a year, all these huge numbers. But then I would show up for the interview and I would go in and like the people would be dressed poorly. All the cars in the parking lot were pieces of shit.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, well, where is it? And then on the flip side, like when I came to Michigan, one of my first jobs was working for Quicken Loans. So I went there and I remember the parking garage, and I remember walking through there and there was like Porsches, Corvettes, like all this. And I'm thinking like, okay, there's people really making money here, and it was cool. And you go inside and you see 22-year-old guys wearing, $2,000 3-piece suits, and they were on the phone. So I don't know why you need that, but it's just, one of those things
Look good,
where
feel good.
Yeah, they had it, and it was cool. And I remember at that time I was like, wow, okay, this is the place where you can actually make the money.
Yep.
But yeah,
I didn't know
nice
that.
to see it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was. I didn't like working there though. That's for sure.
How long were you there for?
I was there for about a year.
Okay.
Yeah, it was tough. I went from owning my own insurance agency in Arizona to coming to Michigan, and working there, which I thought would be the same. Sales would be fun, but then I realized like there it's kind of not to give them a bad name. I mean, they're pretty much the best at what they do. But to me, it was like a sweatshop for mortgages. Yep. I mean, you were there plugged in 14 hours a day on the phone constantly. Like if you put your headset down, somebody would come over and be like, why aren't you on the phone? So to go from owning my own business to kind of setting my own rules to then being chained to a desk for 14 hours a day plus, an hour plus commute each way, it was tough.
Dang.
Yeah.
And I never answered your question about, feeling responsible for the people under me. And, I think that's the purpose of a team, right? The purpose of a team is to hold those people accountable, but to also inspire those people.
Yeah.
And just keep filling them with hope and show them the way. You're, as a leader, you're supposed to pave the way for how to do things. And you're obviously going to learn from other people, but you're kind of just bulldozing for them and they're just trailing. And, good leaders make better leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you agree with the the KPA assessments? Is that something that you would use as a tool when you're building a team?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's accurate. I've read mine, and it's pretty accurate.
It's kind of a trip, isn't it? To read it and see these things.
Pretty scary. I'm like, wow,
yeah,
this is me. I didn't even know it.
Right. And when you're reading it, it's like you have to admit internally, you're like, okay, maybe I don't like this, but it's true.
Yeah, it's very accurate.
Yeah, I always thought that was really cool, and it tells you too, like even like
the job roles.
Yeah, yep. And some of the characteristics, like this person needs to be held accountable. This person needs structure, and then there's the people that don't need structure, don't need their handheld, don't do well with it. So it's really cool to help you figure out how to coach these people because everybody's different.
Yeah, and I'm super passionate about coaching too. So before real estate, so I was doing the construction, and then I coached basketball for 6 years.
Okay.
So coaching has always been like a big part of it. Was coaching basketball, and just something that I love doing, just teaching kids and just showing them, how to simplify the process.
Right.
And coaching also allows you to grow as an individual, because it's one thing to play the game or to, sell real estate, but then it's another thing to go out there and actually teach somebody how to do it.
Yeah.
Because for us, it's so easy now that we've been doing it, but then showing somebody how to do something like a layup. All right. Take your step here, get the string out. Here's how you do a right-hand layup.
Right.
So it's very similar to real estate.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And it's cool that with Keller Williams, it seems like everybody is on a team.
Yep.
Because it's like I was saying before, you can go to that top producer that you would think would maybe be arrogant or not have time for you because they're so busy, and it's like they'll always make time to talk to you and tell you like exactly how they did it and what they're doing that works and what's a waste of money. And that to me is awesome.
It's very transparent. And when I first started, and even now, I felt really comfortable talking to anybody and everybody. I was just a solo agent. I was 25 at the time. I would just ask people for questions. And one of the people that I really looked up to was Chris Fish, because when he came in, he sat right across from my cube. So I'd always ask him questions, and he'd always give, some really good knowledge on it and be like, yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
So I think
he
it's
is a cool
awesome.
guy too.
Yeah,
And that was one
I
of the
like
ones
him.
I was very intimidated by when I started, because I would always see them in the office, you know, and they had their own office at that time. But I always walk by and I'd be like, oh man, I'm nervous to come in and talk to him, you know, because they were intimidating, because it looked like
Yep.
they really had it together. I mean, they do have it together. But yeah, then when I started talking to them, like everybody's very nice, and I don't think it's just an act. I mean, I think it is genuinely very nice people, and I'm not sure how they did that and how they built it like that, or if that has something to do with KPA assessments or what the deal is. But yeah, it's a great place to be.
Yeah. I mean, just giving, it'll come back around, and
Yeah.
that's not why you give in the first place. But I feel like I said, I always felt comfortable just asking anybody anything. And I'm the same way at the office. Somebody can come up to me and ask me whatever, and I'll be 100% honest with them.
I ask you all the time. Be like, hey, why don't you use Tribe?
Oh man.
But yeah, that's what's cool to me too, is that everybody that's been in here has said the same thing. Like if you do things genuinely and from your heart, then you'll reap the rewards. I mean, it's true. It's time on task. Every time if you do that, it's eventually going to pay off. If you don't focus on the money, you focus on the passion, the job, the helping people, the money will follow.
And it's also helping you grow by, giving and teaching them, because now you're putting your mindset in the same situation they're in, and you're trying to advise the best solution. So it gets you another rep.
Yeah.
So I look at it as that way too.
Yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, it's practice.
Yep, practice.
Yeah,
We
that's
talk about
awesome.
practice.
The cool thing is too, like you, I mean, I don't know a ton about you, but I know a little bit. I know you came from a very humble background, right? Both your parents worked, or?
So I grew up in Mexico, and my dad lived in Detroit at GM. He worked at GM.
So you lived in Detroit when your father lived in Michigan?
No, I lived in Mexico with my mom.
Oh,
and
wow.
my
And
brother
your
and
dad
sister.
was here.
My dad was here, and he would just work and send money back home.
Yeah.
And he'd come visit every once in a while, and then we decided, like, we'd go back and forth between Mexico and Texas. Like, we still have family in Texas, Houston area. And then when we were like 6 years old, it was 2000, we decided to just come over here and live with my dad. And he was living in Howell at the time with his brother. So we just ended up staying in Howell for a couple of years, and then we moved over closer to Lansing.
Okay.
So
That's cool.
yeah.
That's wild. So how old were you when you came here?
6.
Okay.
6, yep. I started first grade and didn't speak English.
Wow.
So that was interesting.
So you're used to conquering hurdles.
Yeah, I think the language barrier was a big hurdle, just because, being 6, looking back at it, it's like you're still learning all the social cues, and I hadn't even learned those in Spanish.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to learn them in a different language that I don't even understand. So it took, like, comprehending things took some time, like I'd say like 6th grade, 7th grade, like deeply. But once I got a hold of that, it's like, okay, now you feel confident, and you give somebody confidence and they can do whatever.
Yeah. Do you feel like that kind of helped shape you? Because I know you come off as a very confident, knowledgeable guy. Do you feel like that kind of instilled a work ethic in you because you had to try a little bit harder?
I think it's just my parents, who they were, just always work hard. That's pretty much it. We can control that. So just parents always worked really late and really hard. So I think it's just been ingrained in me from the get-go. But I would say so. I think my past is definitely a huge part of me, and part of, like, the building some business models right now. And one of them talked about, what does my future look like? What does my business look like? What does my family life look like? One of the ones that I got caught up on for a long time was, what does my past look like? And I talked about it last week on a Facebook post, talking about part of where I'm going is knowing where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So knowing where I'm coming from is my background, my roots, my parents' sacrifice, learning everything.
Right.
And I want to give back and help, people change their lives and become the best version of themselves. And I was wondering, like, why did I want to do that? Like, does it just sound good? Does it make me feel good? And I figured out it was because somebody did that for me. Somebody sacrificed their future. My parents were like 20.
Yeah.
And they sacrificed for my future, and they changed my life. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it came back full circle. And it it really made sense for the first time, but you have to dive really deep into your past to find out why you want to go where you want to go.
Right.
So it was really cool last week.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And it's what you were saying about your daughter. I mean, talk about the ultimate sacrifice. It sounds like your father had to basically miss all those years of, you growing up in those formidable years to come over here and try to make money to support his family, which is, I mean, that's a huge sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I look at him and, I text my parents every day, talk to them. And growing up, I was, like any 15-year-old kid, like, I don't want to hang out with my parents.
Right.
But now it's like I can't get enough of them because I know life's short and, they're only 49. My dad's 49.
Oh, wow.
So, but he could be 49, but we don't know what's going to happen 2 months from now. So just taking every moment and realizing that people won't always be there for us.
Right.
So
that's very cool. Well, I mean, the cool thing is too, that he is 49. I mean, he's got a lot of life left ahead of him.
Yep.
Which is very cool to be able to see his granddaughter, probably get married and grow up and graduate high school and all those cool things.
I hope so. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, but we never really know how old we are either, right? So he could, average life expectancy could be 76, but his, he could be the end of his life.
Right. Yeah, you never know.
You just never know. So I think if you live that way, you can just leave everything on the court.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I am when I play basketball. Just leave it all on the court. Just go in, go hard. And when you step off, you can say you have no regrets.
Right.
So that's the same way I love on my parents and the
Yeah.
people that are around me.
That's
Just
cool.
Go all in.
And that's cool that you know that at a young age. I mean, most people don't figure that out until they get much older. Not to go dark, but considering, what you were saying, you never know when your time is up.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've done some deals outside of real estate, or I mean, I guess I shouldn't say outside of real estate. It's still real estate involved, but you have a couple investment properties now too, correct?
Yep. 2.
Okay.
A duplex and then a single family.
Yeah, that's awesome. And is that stuff that you're doing, trying to plant the seeds basically so that your daughter will be taken care of?
Yes. So like our big struggle growing up, was money. And like where we come from, you're not taught, how to make money. You're taught just how to be an employee. So just building wealth. And, my definition for success is being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Yeah.
Talked to a guy at a couple weeks ago, and he said the richest man is the one who controls their time. And he's 100% right. So if today, I want to go spend all day with my daughter, then that makes me rich because I'm controlling my time. I don't have to go do things that I don't want to. But in the beginning, like right now, we're going to have to do the things we don't want for a couple of years in order to be able to get to that spot down the road.
That's awesome. What are your plans for as far as investing? Like what's your goal for how many investment properties you'd like to have?
I want like a passive income goal. So if I could get to like $10,000 a month passive coming in, net income, then that would be really good for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be incredible. That's life-changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think about that with my kids. Like some people pass away. Well, some people pass away, leave people nothing or debt. Others might leave them, something in their will or a house or money or whatever the thing is. But I'm always talking to my wife about that. I want to leave my children, a portfolio of rentals because it's that income they get every month.
Yep.
And with inflation, I mean, those properties are only going to go up in value. I always think like what a game changer that is for somebody.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be awesome. And you definitely help them out a ton. Especially if you show them how you did it. You're, like I said, pretty much just, you're the bulldozer out front, and then you can teach your kids how to do what you did if they want to. But if not, then they have that opportunity there. Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, it takes really good people in the world too that there aren't enough of. And I always think like if I could leave something like that behind for my children, that would give them time to be philanthropists or do these things that, a lot of people don't do because they have to go work and make money, which is, again, something that would be really nice if they weren't into money, but they have the security to go and do the good things that change the world.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Cool. And then I guess my closing question for you is, you were big into athletics.
Mm-hmm.
again, to your background, do you think that that really helped shape you as far as like mindset, discipline, focusing on your goal? Do you think that that really helps drive you in business?
Um, I think it helps, get that process. Just being an athlete and always competing, I definitely think it gave me like just everything's a challenge, right? You're always competing, no matter if I'm playing a game of checkers. Like if I'm playing with somebody, like with Sydney, my fiance, she knows that I'm gonna beat you, right?
I came to win.
So anything else, but I think sports instilled a really good competitive side in me. And then just tying in like Eric Thomas and David Goggins with the mindset. So, I feel like anything is possible, and just helping people realize that would be the next big thing.
And do you think that sports, like back to when you were saying you came here, there was a huge language barrier. Do you think that sports was one of those things that kind of leveled the playing field? Like you could go play sports and you didn't necessarily have to be the best communicator. You could go out there and do something that kind of you were the same as everybody else for that, an hour or whatever it was.
Yeah, sports were tough. Like nobody in my family really played sports. My grandpa was a boxer, and then my dad also boxed growing up. So they didn't really know how to play sports. Like they didn't understand basketball. Like all they know is soccer,
right.
And so I was pretty unathletic and didn't really play a whole lot my younger years until I was in high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sports always help.
Yeah. Did they decide as a family that you were too handsome to get into boxing?
No,
they want your face getting busted
My
up?
dad, he tried to get us to go into boxing for a little bit, and we took some lessons with his buddy, and then we just never followed through with it.
Yeah.
So my mom was more of like the one who's like, no, they shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
So I always joke with Sydney, and I'm like, Gianna's going to be an MMA fighter. And she's like, yeah, right.
That's what I say about my daughter. She's an animal.
Yeah. Dude, girls are feisty.
Yeah, for sure.
So
that's awesome. And then more plans for kids in the future?
Yeah, the goal would be, if Sydney's listening, 4, but I really would like to have like 5.
Really?
Yeah, I just want to have, I think family is the most important thing. I have an older brother, younger sister. I wish I had another brother and another sister, just to have that community of people who, no matter what, you're always going to be there for each other. So I think 5 would be an awesome number of just having their backs, because I won't always be there.
Right.
So they're going to have each other. And then even when they start to get older, they're going to pass, and then they're going to have 4, 3, 2, and then they're going to be the last ones.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the reason why I want just build a team with my family.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
So.
And it is true. I mean, it's got kind of built-in network.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I lied. I said that was my last question, but I have one other. So back to real estate. Now, how do you get business? What's your big thing? Do you buy leads? Do you just do organic?
Yeah. So my first year, when I did 13 deals, it was a lot of them were for sale by owners, which was just cold calling. And that was really good because it was just a lot of mental toughness. You're getting shot down. And then my second year, I think I only had like 1 or 2 online leads that came through. And I wasn't even paying for it. It was just from my listings. Yeah. And then this year, there's been a couple more, but I just keep everything organic. People reach out through Facebook, and it works a lot better. Nothing wrong with online leads. I just like working with people that I know, or, hey, so-and-so referred me to you. That lead's already really warm. Yeah. And you can build a really good relationship with that person.
Yeah, that's nice. And do you think that being bilingual gives you an advantage in business? I mean, I would think that it did.
Yeah, it definitely does. I know there's not a lot of Spanish-speaking agents in the area. There might be more towards like Novi, Detroit area, but at least Lansing, Brighton, there's not a whole lot of. So definitely gives me an advantage. And then I've had a couple referrals from people because these people only speak Spanish. Right. So, and then that's just an awesome part for me, because I did one in Coldwater, which was like 2 hours from here. Yeah. And the reason I did it was because these people only spoke Spanish. Yeah. And there was nobody else that would drive to Coldwater to go do it. So I helped them out. We looked, and it was just, it's fulfilling because my parents were there once. They actually bought a house from an agent from R. Keller Williams back in 2004. Oh, really? Yep. That's awesome. So I looked it all up because I looked at the old house that we bought. Yeah. and it said KW Realty, Livingston or whatever it said at the time. And I was like, no way. And then Candace Shinjek, she's like, oh yeah, I remember her. And I was like, of course you do.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
So it's just cool, like how we worked with a KW agent and then I ended up at the same KW without even knowing it.
And like you said, that's got to be very fulfilling to be that person or that voice for people that have a major communication barrier. And a lot of them probably think that they can't do these things because of the fact that they have that communication barrier. So to be somebody that can speak the language and help them navigate through has to be a extremely rewarding feeling.
Yeah. And the most rewarding thing is like, you can empathize because I was there before, right? So I was in their shoes before trying to go to the bathroom in first grade. Like I just crossed my legs. So just now when you're at this higher place in your life and you can look back, and that's like an older or a younger version of you that you're helping.
Yeah.
So it's like you're your own hero for somebody else's story. But no, I think it's just, and they're the most thankful people too, is like taking the time to help them out and just super grateful. Yeah,
that's awesome. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they go about getting in touch with you?
You can message me on Facebook or text my cell phone, and will we put something up for that?
Yep. Okay. We'll put a link at the bottom so everybody can find that.
Yep. So either one of those two methods work, and I'm always happy to help anybody with real estate questions or looking to buy, sell, or invest.
Okay, awesome. And if you guys are listening on the radio, check it out on YouTube as well, because Esteban has incredible hair.
Thanks, guy. I got a haircut yesterday just for you.
Nice. I appreciate that. Yep. That's it, man. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing your time with us. I think you had a really cool story to tell.
I appreciate it, Brett. You're the man.
All right, man. Thanks.
Thank you.